The Raptors are on a 4-game win streak. They won over the 76ers last night, 110-103. They held the Sixers to 19 points in the fourth quarter. Savanna Hamilton, Paul Jones, and of course, Sherman Hamilton break down the win and talk about everything up ahead. Sherm, we held Embiid to 6 for 20 from the field last night. How did the Raptors disrupt them?
Well, I thought, Savannah, the Raptors have always been in Joel Embiid's head, and this time they were able to do it without Marc Gasol and Serge Ibaka. But I thought their collective effort in terms of how they approached it, their double teams were very aggressive. They were high hands. They really didn't allow him to get that low post box position. And his numbers, you look at 25 and 17, and you're looking at a monster game for most people. But the 6 of 20, as you pointed out, is very important when discussing his ability to be in terms of scoring with consistency and dominating the game. I thought Aaron Baines did an excellent job for a guy who people talked about being inferior of quality in terms of Joel Embiid's athleticism and offensive skill set. I thought Aaron Baines did a great job being physical, not giving up ground, and just being present. The other side of it, I thought the team collectively, they bought in, they bothered him, they pestered him, they got underneath him, deflected passes, double teamed him, just kept him off balance and discombobulated him, and really disrupted Philadelphia's overall offensive flow because of the attention they put on Joel Embiid.
Jonesy, what did you make of the Raptors defense down the stretch?
Well, look, Savannah, the defense was pretty good all night. Even Sherm just highlighted what they did with Joel Embiid, how they made it difficult for him, how he had to, take a lot of shots to get what he wanted to do. I mean, I look at the fact that going down the stretch, they have the template, and they basically use the same sequence that they've used for years. It was just different guys executing it. And I noticed Toronto changed things up. They did a really good job kind of inserting different people into different roles. Chris Boucher did a nice job, coming from behind and getting blocks. He was saddled with foul trouble, but DeAndre Bembry was a bother. He was in Ben Simmons' grill and making it tough for him and just disrupting him. So, look, the Raptors have the template. And I think what you're seeing now in general with this Raptors team is they know that they have to rely on their defense, and their chemistry is becoming better. 5 guys on a string, and they're taking it to heart more. It's not just the offensive end. They're getting stuff done with their defense. And that was really good last night, doing it against Philadelphia. Yeah.
Taking it to heart. We got to talk about Fred VanVleet. How impressive has he been over the past 4 games, Jones?
He's been great, Savannah. He's such a leader, a natural leader. And, we talk about it all the time. It's not how big you are, it's how big you play. Fred making big shots. He was part of that big spurt at the end of the first quarter, pushing the ball, making threes, getting to the basket, just kind of keeping the defense off balance and setting the tone for them. And then, we talk about the ends. He does things very subtly. Stay in front of your man. Don't gamble. Contain, contest. When there's a rebound, you get your stop. And I know he's one of the NBA leaders in steals, but he's not one of those guys that's always gambling for a steal. If you put the ball in front of him, he's going to take it. If you have your back turned as he's retreating off his man and comes to you, he'll take it. But he's not one of those guys that's gambling and lunging for steals in the passing lane. So Fred's been steady. We joke, steady Freddie, and that's what he does, and that's what he gives the team all the time.
Steady Freddie with the quick hands. Sure, we got to talk about Pascal Siakam because we're so used to seeing him in a scoring role. But last night he had 8 assists on top of his 23 points, just so casually. Talk to me about, is he evolving into a playmaker now?
Oh, no question about it, Savannah. I mean, those 8 assists are just kind of one of the markers that we use. But you think about Pascal's ability to create shots, and we often talk about the Gretzky assist. I mean, if they were keeping track of that, I think Pascal would have even higher numbers. He did struggle to shoot the ball, 8 of 18 last night, but also the 7 rebounds. So what I've seen from Pascal is, and especially in the Minnesota game where he shot the ball even worse from the floor, But his defense, his ability to block shots. Game against Philadelphia, he made plays offensively, but he also impacted the game on the glass. He impacted it with his passing ability and also with his defensive ability again. And I think that's where you see the next step in how players evolve. Pascal is a guy who is now figuring out, when I don't have my A game, when my best stuff isn't working on any given night, can I still lead this team and help this team get to a W? And we're seeing that progression and that development over the last, say, 10 to 15 games. He's really going to another level. And it's not one of those levels that jumps at you and screams at you. You just replay the game in your mind and you get to see it again and you look at his numbers and they don't look the greatest. But when you think about the plays he made to impact the game, you tip your hat to the man and say, he's getting it done on other levels now.
Sure, I think it's about time that the NBA considers, validating the Wayne Gretzky assists, the hockey assists that my coach used to call them. Pascal Siakam, he shared his thoughts on his playmaking ability with us this morning.
I just think, again, sometimes, like, I mean, even with everything going on, like, I just feel like sometimes, like, I do be forgetting myself too, that, like, I mean, I started playing basketball 10 years ago or something like that. Like, again, like, I just always feel like, again, I work so hard and I put a lot of pressure on myself to play at a high level. But then again, like, there's so many things that I can learn, and I'm just excited about the improvement and watching film, and just continue to get better. That's something that I've been able to do, and watching some of the things that I've done, and being more poised and more in control while making moves, or even just like seeing the flow better. And then again, with the attention that you get, I think being able to make plays and help your teammates be better. I think that's something that I look at, and I focus a little bit more on, and just don't understand that, like, it's not just all about scoring or whatever the case might be. It's about being an all-around player, and something that I'm getting better at, and I'm learning from guys like Kyle, Fred, like those guys, and again, I'm not at that level of playmaking, but again, like, I'm just trying to learn and get better, and just grow as a player. There's always going to be things that you're going to have to get better at, as especially when you get to this level, and that's something I'm just constantly looking at every single day, and trying to improve as a player.
The Raptors continue the series against the 76ers on Tuesday. You could watch and listen to the game on Sportsnet. Now, Jonesy, we got to talk about Boucher, because he had a big fourth quarter, 11 of his 17 points down the stretch. He just continues to impress you, doesn't he?
He does. And I sometimes wonder, Sherman and I talked about it because we did the game on the radio. The Philadelphia 76ers did not adjust at all. I wondered what they were doing. They ran screen and roll, and it was, pick and pop with Boucher, and he makes a shot. And he makes another one. And they didn't push up on him. And, one of the shots, Tobias Harris had his hands in his pocket, just standing there watching him. And Chris is the kind of guy, I mean, he's not shy. And then when he makes one, that was the shot I was talking about right there. When he makes one and he starts feeling it, he's going to keep looking for it. And his team is going to keep looking for him. And then he gets one where he sneaks in and picks up some loose change around the basket. He's always active, Chris. And that's the one thing. The shot may not go, or you might point at other things in his game, but he is active and he always plays with energy. And he gives you that at both ends. So, good for Nick Nurse, and he left him in there. Norm Powell spent a big part of the fourth quarter on the bench because Chris Boucher was rolling so well. And I give Nick Nurse credit, and Chris has certainly earned his trust and that playing time.
That's so funny. I was just going to say that, like, there's a certain level of trust that you have with your coach and player that allows players to succeed, even if it's down the stretch, or, maybe they weren't so hot in the beginning. But somebody who has been hot has been Norm Powell. He didn't have a great game last night, maybe a little bit more quieter, but over the stretch, over the past couple of games, he has. Sherm, give me your thoughts on him.
Well, I love what I'm seeing from Norm Powell. He's been so good offensively. When you look at a player and how they progress throughout the course of a season, you don't always want to look just at their scoring, but you can't avoid Norm's numbers. In 33 minutes, just around 21 points, Look at his field goal percentage, 50% from three and almost 56% from the floor. He's doing a great job scoring with efficiency. He's being very versatile with how he attacks and the way he puts the ball in the basket. He's playing physical, decisive basketball. And I like the fact that you look at a game against Philadelphia where he didn't have the best night, going 3 of 11 with only 11 points. But that's a testament to teams looking at Norm now and saying, listen, we know you can impact winning on a high level. We've got a game plan for you. And if you're Norm Powell, you take that with that spot of pride and say, look, I've evolved my game to the point where teams are game planning for me at the top of the scouting report. Now, the next step for Norm in another matchup with Philadelphia is, can he overcome what they threw at him in the first game? Can he get above that and play at the level that he's used to and still execute the way that we've seen him do it prior to that Philadelphia game? So it's a great testament and nod to Norm's ability to impact the game. And he's just going to have to play at a higher level to overcome what Philadelphia brought against him in that first matchup.
Now, some big news happened last night. Chris Finch, he's now going to be the head coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves, the team that we just beat. But Jonesy, tell me, what do we lose offensively? Because he was actually coming into this season ranked actually one of the number one coaches as assistants in the league.
Yeah, I mean, it's his offensive mind, Savanna. And, we had a chance, Sherman and I and some of the broadcast crew, to be on a call with him earlier. And he always talked about his philosophy and the quick decision-making and next action basketball. And I think you see the Raptors coming into their own in that sense, kind of understanding that philosophy. Some of that came from Nick Nurse, and Nick is rooted in that. So they're going to lose a guy that is an offensive mind. And I think a lot of that same philosophy belongs to Nick, but it's going to fall on Nick as the voice to reinforce that. And in a way, that's dangerous because you don't want the head coaching the one voice all the time saying the same thing. Players sometimes tune that out, although I don't think this will be the case. But, Chris Finch is a guy that would certainly reinforce some of the things that, some of the ways that Nick wants to play, the philosophy of the way Toronto wants to play. So it's a loss. It's a loss. Anytime you lose a guy who becomes a head coach, they always say when you are a head coach, hire guys who could replace you, hire guys you think are as good or better than you are. And look at it in the last few years, the Toronto Raptors, the organization, Dwayne Casey has begot Nick Nurse. Nick Nurse has begot Nate Bjorkgren and Chris Finch. And I'm telling you, Adrian Griffin is going to be a head coach in this league when the right job comes along. So I'm not surprised to see it happen, but it'll be a loss that Toronto will have to recover from.
You heard it here first. Adrian Griffin going to be a head coach in the NBA someday. And you're totally right, Jonesy, with the fact that it speaks to the organization and its culture of just development, not just the players, but the coaches and the staff behind the scenes. So Sherm, how do you see Chris Finch fitting in with Minnesota now?
Well, first of all, when you bring a guy with that type of credibility and the understanding of how to run offense to a team that has some young pieces, when you look at it, I think it's a very good situation. Look, he's going to be able to instill the right way to play offensively. And as a young team with some young players that are coming up, you want to teach them how to play offense the right way. Anthony Edwards, he has the chance to be a very good player in this league. Well, if you can get him to understand how to give that ball up, move without the ball, get back to the ball, how to pass the ball, how to play screen and roll basketball, all those elements. Malik Beasley, another player who's pretty much jumped off the page this year. Guys like that, even a Karl Anthony Towns, just learning how to flow offensively and play more five-man basketball. Listen, when he was in Denver, you think about him putting the ball in Nikola Jokic's hands and his ability to facilitate offense and how they played off of movement and cutting. That's what Chris Finch will bring to the Minnesota Timberwolves. And I think when you get him young and you instill those values of offensive principles in terms of movement and sharing, it just does wonders for their game. And those kind of players fit into any system after they understand and believe in that style of basketball.
I'm looking forward to seeing what he's going to do with Karl Anthony Towns' cat. Now, Nick Nurse, he shared his thoughts this morning on that transition on Chris Finch moving to Minnesota.
I mean, I coached against him a lot. A lot of games. Coached with him. for a number of summers with Great Britain. Obviously, this has been enjoyable. He's really at a high level. He really is at a high level, not just off. I mean, really, really offense for sure, but not just offense, because he's got so many games as a head coach under his belt. He I would say that, just kind of thinking back, he really gets his teams to play hard. They really come after you, both sides of the ball. He's a student of the game, so he's well prepared. He's organized. And I think there's some good talent there in Minnesota. I think that's part of, why he was excited to take that job. They're young, obviously youngest team in the league, but there's some skill and athleticism and size and and some depth there too, I think. So it will be interesting to see how he does, but I think he'll do a good job. He's a hell of a coach.
Now we're going to head to a previous conversation we had today on RTX. Joining us on RTX today, it's Blake Murphy. We're going to do 101, just the two of us. Blake is a Raptors reporter at The Athletic, and it's a pleasure to have you back on the show.
Thanks for having me. Always love coming on.
Okay, it's great. Let's get started. So, Nick Nurse, he's been easing up the media and the other coaches. He's been working the phones. Last night, I saw that he said, I thought he looked like an all-star, referring to none other than Fred VanVleet. Now, that being said, do you think that Fred will be named an NBA All-Star reserve?
Tough. The East guard competition is really deep this year, and it always is, but especially this year. My worry for a little while was that, the Raptors would probably or could maybe get one vote on every coach's ballot, but Kyle and Fred and Pascal might steal votes from each other, right? If you're a coach and you're, hey, I want to reward a Raptor, look how they've turned it around. Maybe you split up those votes. Fred kind of pulling ahead in that conversation, and then Kyle missing the last couple games probably nudges Fred higher. I think if we were looking at all around impact and we were including defense, I think he has a pretty strong case. We know historically that that's not always how these votes get done. I would guess that he doesn't make it in and kind of slots in as that top injury replacement or two. I think it's really close. I think there's 12 guys that you could make an argument for with those 7 spots. So tough to be too disappointed if he just misses out.
You're breaking my heart.
I know.
I
hope I'm wrong. I know he said he'd be fine. He'll be on a beach somewhere if not. So maybe he's all right with it.
Yeah, he's okay. He'll survive. Now the Raps are over 500, which is so nice to see after what was an interesting start to the season. And the East has also been shaping up in interesting ways as well, to put it politely. Particularly with the East, have your expectations changed for this Raptors team given everything that we're seeing this season?
Not really, no. And I think, it's funny, had the Raptors played to form, Fred has a much better case, right? You're going down the standings, and Nick has said that's kind of how he does it in the past. But no, I think my expectations are right about where they were to start the season. I think I picked the Raptors to finish 3rd in the East. That was before the Harden trade, so nudge them down to 4th maybe. But it's they were, even when they were struggling, they were a team that was better than the record suggested. They stayed around top 10 in net rating. They're now right around top 10 on both ends of the floor. They're pretty solid, and once they figured out how to pull out those late games, I think they've gotten back to looking more like the Raptors we know. And I think that, you have marquee wins now in the last little bit against Brooklyn in that weird KD game, 2 against Milwaukee. And yes, they didn't have Drew Holiday, but you only had Kyle Lowry for 1/2 over those 2 games. And now the 76ers without Kyle, I think they're definitely trending in the right direction. I think I'd put them kind of right back to the top of that second tier in the East.
So it's safe to say your expectations have changed from the beginning of the season?
No, I don't think so, because I had them to finish.
So you were calling it from day one.
Well, I didn't get too down on them. When they were 2-8, I was like, what, they can turn this around and still get 5th, 6th, whatever. And the East has just been there aren't very many good teams to pull away. So I think I had them 3rd in the East before the season. I'd probably drop them to 4th now because Brooklyn looks like they've got some pretty good momentum, but Fundamentally not a huge change. I think they're solid, but not a championship team.
All right, see, this is why you're the pro. This is why people need to go to you to get all their facts. Is you don't get too high or too low like Kawhi Leonard.
I get to be a killjoy all the time. Trade stuff, standing stuff,
There you go. All right, so we both saw that OG Anunoby's smile, look away photo that was posted on Instagram by the Raptors. Blake, caption that.
Oh, that one's easy. When I get invited to come on RTX and talk to you.
Okay. Nice try. You're trying to get another invite on the show. Girl, it's working.
Yeah. What about you? You said you had a few good ones for us.
Oh, yeah. Like, the first thing that came to mind was, like, when I see dessert coming at a restaurant. When I say, if I ask my dog if she wants to walk, that's the type of face she makes. Or, the Raptors climbing up to the 5th spot in the East. Those are all...
For OG, when they tell you don't have to do post-game media.
True. See? Now we're just rolling with them. We're just rolling.
We got lots.
Well, thank you so much for joining us again on RTX. I am sure we'll see you back again soon.
Thanks.
Another back-to-back for the Raptors as they take on the Miami Heat this Wednesday. You could watch it on TSN and, of course, listen it with the pros, Jonesy and Sherm on TSN 1050 radio. Now, guys, let's talk about Miami. We're 1-1 with them this season. They've been struggling. Jonesy, start us off. Are the Heat underperforming this season?
Absolutely. There are some reasons that people will point to. I mean, you go to the NBA Finals, you have a short season. They've had guys in and out of their lineup, and all of a sudden, people are paying attention to guys like Tyler Hero, Bam Adebayo. They're at the top of the scouting report, and people have had time to dissect their games. And if you're not working at your game, then they're going to take away the strengths. Like, okay, we know you can do A, but can you do B, C, or D? So part of that goes to the other teams and the way they're playing them, and the fact that Miami's got the target on their back. They are underperforming, though, Sav. And, you look at some of the important things that Miami values. They're turning the ball over. They turn the ball over more than anybody else. And that's not Eric Spoelstra. That's not Miami basketball. They're also integrating some new parts, too. So, luckily for them, they're halfway through the season. They still have time to turn it around, and they're holding on to the last spot in the play-in right now in the East.
Sure. What does Butler bring to this team? Because he's actually missed the last 2 games that these teams have met.
Yeah, we know what Jimmy Butler brings. There's no surprises there. He's going to be physical. He's going to be a guy who plays with that toughness on both ends of the floor. He's a leader for that team. And remember, Miami's record is indicative of Jimmy Butler not being in the lineup for quite a bit in the earlier parts of the season. Goran Dragic has missed some time as well. So those are some key guys that helped this team get to the finals last year. And I just think Jimmy Butler is one of those two-way players that you don't really want to see because he's so tough. He's so physical. He's a grinder. He gets the job done. And the Raptors are going to have their hands full with Jimmy Butler back in that lineup.
Very true. I'm looking forward to seeing that game and how they do, because it's always an entertaining game when the Raptors take on the Miami Heat. Now, guys, something I don't do enough on this show is give shout outs to the people in the back. That's Travis, Jake, Pat, and Dwayne. Jonesy used to do it all the time in the previous episode, so I'm stealing that from you now. Take care, guys, and thank you, the viewers, for watching. Thank you for watching our latest episode. Make sure you subscribe to all the Toronto Raptors social channels so that you don't miss a thing.